For robotics and automated systems level 1, students will need several programs and things turned on. So from the hardware requirement standpoint, they get STEMI robot, STEMI Hexpod robot, and they're getting the kit. So the kit, it's a crawling robot that first they build it, then they use a stock app to work with that. Then they do app development, and we'll talk about that in a second. And in between, they're learning about robotics and engineering and AI. So the per student team, they get a robotic kit. Usually that's 2 students to 1 team. They will need tablets, Chromebooks, or phones to use the app side of things. To just get the stock app, which is available on Google Play or Apple Store, they will need to drive the robot around once they build it. And minimum 2 is what we look for, and that's just to do the stock app. And again, that's Chromebook compatible or regular tablets or phones. We also recommend a USB charging hub, just makes things easier. A lot of times we've seen issues in charging the batteries because the USB from a Chromebook isn't quite enough power to charge the batteries properly, and then the batteries they're like on a trickle charge and takes forever. So a USB hub going into the wall is desirable. Magnetic sweep is really useful. The idea is the kids are going to drop little screws, so the teacher can use a sweep and just pick them all up. And that's a great thing to do. Hardware device whitelist, whatever tablets or phones are provided from the school or Chromebooks, they need to be online. So those need to be accessing Wi-Fi and have Bluetooth enabled and everything like that. Required software on the student and teacher devices, there's no download, everything is done online. So the primary program we're going to discuss is the MIT App Inventor. So students work with that. It's an online coding app meant for schools. MIT App Inventor 2, if you want to look it up, and our links send you there. So students will do their coding on there, and then they will do the coding there, and then they will send that to the app or Chromebook or the target device, and then that app will then build on that device, and then they'll work with the robot. So there's really 2 different, so accessing the curriculum, accessing the MIT App Inventor coding platform, the coding side, no downloads, no installs needed, they just need to log in. MIT App Inventor allows for single sign-on. It allows for usernames to be created, so very similar to RLMS. And then on the target devices, so the device talking to the robot, there's 2 different needs there. One is MIT App Inventor 2, and one is the STEMI Lab app, which is what drives the robot around. And so that one's needed after they do the build. They just want to drive it, they just want to control it, change the lights, walk it around. So that's the STEMI Lab app. That's available on the store. That can work on Android or iPhone, or Chromebook, so really flexible there. On the MIT App Inventor side, the target device can't be an iPhone because Apple locks the Bluetooth settings, locks things down. So MIT App Inventor 2, the companion app that's installed on that target device, needs to be on an Android platform or Chromebook. So that device needs to be a Samsung tablet kind of thing or a Chromebook. What we see some schools do is they provide that teacher with 3 or 4 Chromebooks that stay in that classroom, so it's not the student device, and they put MIT App Inventor 2 on those specific devices, and then the students can grab that device, scan their QR code from MIT App Inventor from their coding side, and it builds on the device, and they can go try to control the robot. So that's a common practice we've seen. And it's supported on Chromebooks. That's something that they've done. They did a little while ago. But then also all your generic, your normal tablets. We recommend staying away from some of the really cheap tablets that are available out there today because they're not quite Android operating system. There's some other thing, even though they use the Google Play Store. We've seen some funky iterations of that, but any kind of Samsung or Lenovo tablet, which are $100, $150, will work great. Doesn't have to be brand new. This is not a super heavyweight app, and the students will be fine working with it. So there's some guidelines on installation for the STEMI app, the MIT App Inventor app. There's a lot of troubleshooting you can do, a lot of workarounds. So if you have it set up a certain way, but you can't quite do it, let us know, come talk with us. We're happy to help. It's a pretty widely used program, but we know that there's some restrictions on different schools or you're set up a certain way. The big headache we've seen is the app gets enabled, but then the Bluetooth, the outreach on Bluetooth is not enabled, not allowed. So the app is working, the students build the app, but then you go to select a Bluetooth and it sees nothing. And what we've seen that is somewhere deep in the settings on security and location, the Bluetooth needs to be allowed to go out and search. The idea being, Android did this a while ago, but the idea being that location and security, you can actually get someone's location based on Bluetooth. So even though the app is allowed to go out on Bluetooth, Bluetooth isn't allowed because of location and security. So we've seen that missed by some IT folks, and then it's a bit of a headache to go find that setting once school is already up and running. The only other thing is the target device and the student device need to be on the same Wi-Fi network. That's the best way to go. There are some workarounds to that, but that's the best way to go. So the two need to talk over Wi-Fi, and students can go work with their devices. That's for the major program. So again, it's the STEMI Lab app, which is to control the robot, available Android or iPhone. Then is MIT App Inventor. Students do their coding on an online IDE. And then there's a target device that then the app loads on, and they go control the robot of their student-built app. For domains and whitelists, we need milestonec.com for some surveys and feedback. lab.stemi.education is where they get their curriculum. That's their LMS. Lots of ways to get on there, usernames, emails, single sign-on like Google and several of the other big ones. And then students are accessing their curriculum directly. STEMI.education may be needed for LMS info. appinventor.mit.edu is where they'll do their coding and sign on. And YouTube is needed for some of the videos that are both that are embedded in the LMS in the curriculum. There's also, we do use Bitly for short linked redirection. If you guys don't open up Bitly, we can provide those files separately to the teacher outside the platform. And then we also use sketchfab.com, which is basically inside their curriculum. The students click that link and they can rotate what they're building. So if they're building the leg of a robot, they can actually see it in 3D space and rotate it, which is really nice for them. And that's everything for Robotics and Automated Systems Level 1, known as RAS 1.